Welcome, 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 and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Horror Humpdays, Night 2 here at b.hive Productions. This is every Wednesday night, or most Wednesday nights. I'll read you one of my short stories or a chapter from a book that I have written and published. Um, Thank you guys for joining me, and welcome to the show. Some of us call this Sleepless Wednesday Night. Um, I try not to make them too scary so that you can't sleep. Good evening, Stephanie. Good that you could join us with your farting badgers and bees. Hopefully, we don't run into any zombies in this story. But let's see here. Tonight, no Sleep Wednesday. Let's do this. Good evening, Kevin, and welcome. I get this dang book out of here. Hey, Jessica, good to see you. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Who else we got coming in? And Shannon. Long time no see, buddy. Long time no see. So, um, anyhow, I got to visit with Shannon this last weekend. Brought a signed book to him. And from the contest he won, he was actually the original winner. And then I just kind of, I don't know, I kind of got soft and caved in. And I said, okay, well, now everybody gets one that's on tonight's podcast. So, yeah, you're very welcome, Shannon. You know what? The visit was way better than anything. So it was good to catch up on you. I'd forgotten a lot of stuff from back in those days. So, yeah, it was good to see you. Good to see you're doing good. Oh, I'm glad you like Story Hour. I enjoy Story Hour as well. Tonight's story is Midnight Dreary, and it is a story that I have read before and put on here on the b.hive page, but I pre-recorded it because I went to Florida for Christmas, and yeah, we do have to do it again, Shannon. It was a lot of fun. Maybe sometime we get next time Kevin's in town, maybe the three of us can get together. That'd be fun. So, anyhow, I was in Florida, so I pre-recorded the story, and it did not do as well as the live stuff. And I think the reason for that is not so much even the story itself, but I think the communication that we all have with each other is a little more. I don't know. It's a little more personal. It's a little more fun to do this too, reading to you guys live. So, so I'm reading the story again. It's from my book, my latest book, Thin Spots. And this came out October of last year. So is available on Amazon.com if you want to pick up a copy for yourself. I do have to order some more copies because I think other than this, this is the only copy I got. I think I might have some more floating around here. I don't know, but I haven't been able to find them. I know my friend Pimo wants one for his little gallery he built over there at his place. So, yeah, I'll have to get some more books ordered. It's always good to have some books on hand. I need to give one to the Winthrop Library as well. And now I have an in at the library because my good friend Bobby is part of the library board now. So there you go. Now I can get all my books in there, even ones I didn't write. So there we go. All right. So anyhow, this book, Thin Spots, is very near and dear to me because a lot of the stories in it came to me organically, and they actually showed up in my brain pretty fast. And I didn't let up writing on them until I was done with them, really, or until I fell asleep. I feel bad because most of the stories, not all of them, the two that I will read Well, I read you one last week and then tonight. These two do not have a character that's based around Stephanie. So, but there are some in here where Stephanie is basically the character, and I kill the poor girl. So I don't know. Call that some type of psychological thing or not. But you can't kill them in real life, so just do it in a book. Um, I know I've. Well, you'll find out. There's another person that I killed in this book that I wanted to kill in real life. So, but it was an amazing thing to watch you write. Well, thank you, hon. It was fun to write, and I always like running my stories past you to see what you think. Steph is not really big on the horror genre, which is weird because, like, well, what are you doing, Brad? Because holy crap, that guy's spooky. But she's been really good to run stories past, so because then I get kind of a different aspect of the story and stuff like that. And he wonders why I have nightmares, right? Yeah. No, I don't wonder why. I know why you have nightmares. So, yeah. Anyhow, there's so this book came about organically. Most of the time, I've written my stories um, with a nightmare that I've had. These stories, no. No nightmares produced these stories. These all just kind of came out of my brain. So maybe they're pre-nightmares. Something like that. I don't know. So anyways, tonight's story, Midnight Dreary, and maybe I've talked to you folks about this before, but it is a... so I wrote a story called The Anti-Clause. Yes, I agree. I wrote a story called The Anti-Clause a long time ago. In fact, I think I was a teenager when I wrote that originally. And I put it in one of my books. I've read that story to you guys. I think it was one of the Christmas specials that I did for b.hive. And it was about this malevolent spirit that showed up at this dysfunctional family's Christmas and pretty much killed everybody in the family except for Billy, the main character, and his mom and his cousin. So, but I thought I should write in. I'm going to have to write another one for next Christmas. And that's when I came up with this story here, Midnight Dreary. And this is kind of the origins of the Anti-Clause, who is, I guess you would call him Santa's evil twin. Writing this story, as I began writing, I said, you know what? I need to look up the legend of St. Nicholas, which I did. And there was a lot of stuff in there that I was like, oh my God, this is totally the outline for the story. So I'm going to read you guys the story, and then we'll talk about the points that I had drawn into the story or whatever. And then the rest is all make-believe, maybe. So anyhow, with all that said, how about we get into the story? How about that? All right, so here we go. Oh, and this is also, hey, Dwayne, good to see you. Thanks for showing up, buddy. Nice smile. What was I talking about here? I don't even remember. This is also, oh yeah, this is also one of the few stories I write that is not based in Minnesota. So this is all over in Turkey and Italy and Norway, Sweden. Yeah, it's all up there. So anyhow, without further ado, here we go. Midnight Dreary, Myra, Turkey, 325 AD. The salty essence of the sea air filled his damp cell, cleansing the reek of defecation and urine about him. It was a welcome scent and reminded him of his time at sea. The moon glowed, the only bright light, leaving a blue hue on everything it touched. "Awaken, man of God," a voice called from the darkness beyond the moonbeam. "Your master has a message for you." The man was already awake, but he only laid there on the tattered sackcloth that was his bed. "If you are truly here on behalf of my master," the man said quietly, "the guards would have never let you in." "They sleep," the voice said. Judging by the confidence in his visitor's voice, he believed him. He sat up and was in shock that his visitor was inside his cell. "What matter of sorcery is this?" he said with some shaken authority. "No sorcery, only the will of the One Most High." Dwayne says, "Speak up." Yeah, are you guys having a hard time hearing me? Steph, I know you can hear me because you're in the next room, but anyhow, I'm speaking pretty close to the mic and I got it facing the right way. All right, give me a thumbs up, you guys, if you guys can hear me okay. If not, then we'll figure it out. Okay. His visitor removed the hood it had draped over its head, and beneath the cloak it wore came the rustling of as if feathers were being beaten together. "What are you?" "Thank you, Jessica. Thanks, Shannon," the man asked, frightened. Before him was something inhuman. It was made of several wings that fluttered constantly, with the many eyes blinking in session with their owner's wings flapping. "I am," it said with a thundering voice. The man laid prostrate on the ground before it. "Do not fear," it said, "but stand, for I come bearing great news." "I do not deserve an audience with the host of holies," the man said. "I am so far from the grace of the Lord." "Humble though you may be, the king brings word for you of great importance." "How may I serve thee?" "Bishop Nicolas of Myra, you have served well with your heart and soul. You have performed miracles and given charity to those less fortunate." "Only by the blessings of God." "While this be true, you did these things of your own free will. And now the Lord commands that you be a beacon for futures to come, to spread tidings of goodwill and peace amongst the future generations of earth." "I am but a man. How can I—" "You will be transformed. You will become new, granting you powers beyond what you can even fathom." "But I'm exiled. The Emperor Diocletian, he would never release—" "Rome will not stand forever. The Emperor is a fool, and he will fall." "When will this all happen?" "You will know not the day nor the time. But when your ascension happens, you must go forth to the north. It is there you set up your home. It is there you will continue your ministry." "But they will find me. They will try to kill me." "Fear not, for the Lord will hide you from their sight." And so it came to pass. Diocletian had aged rapidly and handed over his rule and died, Emperor Constantine came into power, and Nicholas was released from his bondage and continued to lead his church as Bishop of Myra. He served on the Council of Nicaea and exiled Arius as a heretic who had denied Jesus of Nazareth of his holy station. He performed many miracles in the Lord's name, including resurrecting children who had been lured into a butcher's shop who had intended on serving them as pork. The butcher had killed them and pickled them in barrels. Then, at midnight, on a foggy evening in December 343 A.D., he was visited again. This messenger was different than the first. This one was made up of wheels, 2 of them made of what seemed like bronze. The smaller one turned within the larger one, and both were covered with eyes that blazed like lightning. There were also wings that fluttered about on all sides and the faces of men within the wheels. "It is time, then," Nicholas said. "It is time," the visitor said. Nicholas removed his red cloak and vestments and knelt before the being. "In order for you to ascend," the angel spoke, "we must purge you of all your humanistic traits, cleanse you of your impurities, all this in order to be the pure servant of the Lord Most High." "Very well," Nicholas said, and closed his eyes. The wheels within spun faster until the faces of men were blurred. The lightning from the eyes lit together and exploded with brilliance, and then enveloped Bishop Nicolas. He screamed as he felt every iota of his being stripped and cleansed. The process felt like hours, but only lasted for minutes. As the last tendril of lightning finished its job, Nicholas laid there for a moment, letting the steam clear off him. His skin, normally olive in color, glowed to the point of being its own light source. He noticed his hair had turned pure white, that had the same iridescence continuing in a long white beard. "I," the bishop uttered, "I am new." "You are pure and clean," the angel said. "All impurities have been cast off from you, and you are no longer tethered to the ways of the world." "So I am—" "Your free will has been stripped from you." Nicholas only stood there. His mind tried to argue this fact, but then washed away as fast as it came. "It is that way with all of us," the angel spoke. "We must all follow the will of God, without question." "What is that?" Nicholas pointed to a pile of burned sludge that bubbled and writhed next to him. "It is what's left of your humanity." "And what will you do with it?" "That is not your worry anymore. Go now, head north, and begin the purpose you've been given by the holiest of hosts." Nicholas began to walk away when he heard a soft, gurgling voice come from the pile of sludge. "Do not leave me, brother," it said. Nicholas stopped in his tracks and looked down at it. His brow lifted and softness returned to his icy blue eyes. "Hey, Chuck." Do not listen to it, the angel commanded. It is filth. It is every dirty thought you have ever had, every ounce of evil that coursed through your veins. It is not worth the mercy you feel for it now. But Nicholas had knelt beside it. As Christians, shouldn't we? You are no longer Christian, Nicholas. That is a human sect, created and ran by the human race. You are beyond that now. You are of God. You must not leave me, it said. I am part of you. Don't let it destroy me. Go now, Nicholas. The angel's tone became more ominous. I will not leave this part of me, Nicholas said. I have spent the sum of my life tending to the needs of those that are less fortunate. I saved those women from the flesh trade. I gave support to those who were hungry and homeless. I did this all in the name of... The wheels within began to churn again, this time faster than the last. The heads within began singing some sort of song with words that were not decipherable. Power, so blindingly strong, blasted from the being, and Nicholas had been engulfed in it, ripping apart every atom of his being and then assembling them back again. Nicholas was on all fours, staring straight at the ground. Brother, the thing beside him pleaded, do not forsake me. I beg of you. The bishop stood. He was naked and glowing brighter than previous. Without a word, he walked out of the courtyard and began his journey north. The black puddle was steaming and bubbling. It began to stretch out, screaming as it tried to take shape, and for a moment it took the shape of the bishop, and then it fell into a puddle again. The angel, still spinning in its impossible speed, threw out bolts of lightning, striking the shape until it was just charred remains. What is this? It was a priest who had come to witness the commotion. He had brought a few monks with him. Your bishop has ascended, the angel spoke. The angel had taken the shape of a man now, dressed in a cloak threaded with gold. Lightning sparked from its width and breadth. The priest and the monks had fallen on their knees, bowing to the angel as it disappeared in a flash of pure light. The remains were buried in the basement of the Cathedral of St. Nicholas in Myra. The Vatican, 1054. The priest, who had been the one to witness the angel of the Lord ascending Bishop, now sainted, Nicholas, stood before Pope Leo the Ninth. The priest was a cardinal now, and had brought forth the news of the Muslim Turks invading the maritime city of Myra. There's a schism within the church, the Pope said without looking at the cardinal. These Eastern Orthodox branches are trying to prune themselves from the Holy Catholic tree. But, Your Eminence, the cardinal said, if we pull back from our Eastern brethren, we leave ourselves vulnerable to the Muslims. So be it, the Pope said. But I saw the angel of... I've heard what you saw in Myra, Cardinal. I also know that Myra is a city of sailors and transients, drunkards and prostitutes. Perhaps you were indulging too much that night to know what you really saw? Perhaps, the cardinal said regrettably. He had found celebrity with his tale of his supernatural event and did not want to lose his level of pull within the Vatican's hierarchy. The news had traveled fast in Italy. A group of merchants had broken into the church of St. Nicholas and taken the major remains of what was buried beneath the church and enshrined them in the Basilica di San Nicola in the city of Bari, Italy. The remainder of those remains were taken during the Crusades by Venetian sailors and brought back to Venice. Bari, Italy, 1346. He couldn't see, but he could sense. Something, small and hairy, was scuttering about in his sarcophagus. He could feel its petite, tiny clawed feet crawling across his charred shape. If I could just will my remains to... He struggled to concentrate. The rat jerked back from the one piece of charred flesh it was thinking about nibbling on. It was alarmed because it was sure it had moved slightly. Closer, you dirty rodent. Closer. The rat's whiskers twitched, trying to sense movement at its potential meal. Witnessing no danger, it crawled upon the chunk of charred bone matter and began picking at it. Gotcha. The ash flowed around the frightened rodent. It began to take the shape of several tendrils and pierce the flesh of the fat animal. It squealed in pain, and soon its thoughts were no longer its own. The black remains absorbed the rat and took its shape, though this time its color matched the burnt muck. The ash became flesh, and it crawled its way out of the tomb and inhaled the fresh air of Italy. It had taken its first human on board an Italian merchant ship, and by the end of its voyage it had taken the crew of 12. When that ship took port in Sicily, it had infected the populace with its essence, killing millions across Europe. His main goal was to kill the Pope, but had only managed to disseminate his staff. Having failed killing God's emissary, he went looking for his brother. He had taken the shape of a bishop from the Vatican. Keeping the shape of a human being was difficult, and took a lot of will and essence from those poor souls who had come in contact with it. Its first stop was Myra. Finding the old tomb he once laid in, emptied and ransacked, he headed north into Europe, leaving a trail of dead in his wake. There were rumors that his brother had headed to points north, so he set voyage north into England. He moved about using the bodies he'd absorbed. Keeping corporeal was no easy task, so he kept to darkened alleys and shady pubs. Having turned up without any trace of his brother, he set sail into the lowlands, which were also called the Netherlands. His minions had heard whispers of someone called St. Nicolas, who was performing miracles amongst the Frisians. 1353, Groningen Highland, Netherlands. A single monk sat in prayer in the inner gardens. He was a hermit, which was customary in this region, one of the first Catholic monasteries raised in the Netherlands that sat atop a hill overlooking the marshlands. The winds blew fiercely, and when a burnt, pungent odor wafted into the garden, the monk ceased his prayers. "Name yourself," the monk said, not moving from his position. Lurking in the shadows, a shape shifted and moved deeper into the darkness. call me many things, monk, the thing said, but you can call me Keiko Episcopos, if you'd like. The monk opened his eyes and stood. He lifted his right hand and did the sign of the cross. The evil bishop, the monk replied. I think it's fitting, don't you? Fitting how? My brother is heralded as the bishop most high amongst the church and the people, so why wouldn't I take the opposite? And who is your brother? You're not a very good actor, monk. I know my brother was here. You'll have some penance to do for that little lie. I'm afraid I don't know what you're... Enough of this, the evil bishop said, and a long black tentacle whipped out from the darkness and coiled around the shocked monk. Please, the monk pleaded, I assure you that my brother has ascended by the angels of heaven, the bishop spat, pulling the struggling monk into the shadows slowly. He was reformed and elevated to a higher existence. I am what is left of his humanity. Now, your whimpering, lying soul is going to tell me you haven't seen or heard of him? You may be out here amongst the frogs and the leeches of the swamps, little man of God, but I know my brother has been here. I can smell him on you. Taste him on you. No, please. An appendage with many suckers lit upon the monk's face, tasting his every pore. Where is my brother? Where's the one people call Saint Nicholas? He... Are you laughing? The bishop entered the mouth of the monk with a pulsating tendril and filled his body with his essence. He dropped the monk to his knees. The monk coughed and gagged, trying to vomit the evil from his guts. He went north, the monk finally said before he retched up black bile and curdled chunks. North? The evil bishop yelled. We are the furthest point north. There is nothing north but sea. He left on the skiff into the auroras. The evil bishop released the monk. He lay there on the ground convulsing as the obsidian essence coursed through his soul, his heart beating heavily as the essence began to suffocate it. The aurora borealis glimmered like a rainbow seen below the surface of the ocean. The sea was calm, and the occasional iceberg drifted nearby. A fog began to thicken, and visibility was beginning to lessen. It was miles north of Greenland now, and would soon reach the ice shelf of the Arctic Ocean. Miles north, he could make out a glow that came from an island. He knew it was his brother. He could feel him. When his ship went up onto the ice, he left his crew and set out for the island alone. The trek was tedious and cold. He regretted not feeding on the way there. Little chunks of him were freezing and falling off along the way. Before him stood a giant cathedral, made entirely of ice. A bright glow shined down from it in multiple colors. He trudged up to the front gate, which was frozen shut. "Brother!" he shouted. Show yourself! The lights within shimmered, and there were bells that rang high in the steeple. The gates rumbled, and then ice chips began to fall from the spindles. The evil bishop slowly stepped in, and from the great stairwell, 2 angels descended upon him. They were covered with eyes, and had several wings also covered with eyes. A bright shimmering light emitted from them. "You are not welcome here," one of them said. "You should not be alive," said the other. "And yet," the evil one said, "here I am. Where is my brother?" "He is not your brother. You do not deserve to be called so. You are an abomination." "And you are a coxcomb. Now fetch my brother, or I'll—" Lightning began to erupt from the angels, snapping and crackling like whips. Claw-like appendages shot out from the bishop's form from every side, snapping menacingly at the angels. "Try it," the bishop said. "You've tried to kill me once before." "Please," came a calm voice from behind the angels. "Let there be no violence here. This is a place of peace." "Brother!" The bishop lowered his claws and retracted them inside of himself. "You're a long way from home," St. Nicholas said. "I could say the same of you." "This is my home now." "Then it shall be my home as well." His brother lowered his head. The angels began their lightning show again until St. Nicholas raised his hand for them to calm. "I think you know that cannot happen," St. Nicholas said. The bishop's shape undulated several times, taking the form of all those it had killed, and then stopped on the shape of his brother, holding that shape for only a moment. "But we are brothers," he said pleadingly. "Though we are from the same flesh," his brother said, "you are corrupt. You have spread a plague across the known world just with your presence." "I was looking for you." "Be that as it may, I belong to God now. I am to continue with his ministry in his works. I cannot live with my corrupted self." "But I am lonely without you, brother. I promise not to interfere with your work." "You were removed from me so that I may do his work, without the distractions that you present." "But I can learn to be good. I can follow your lead. I could—" "I am truly sorry, but this cannot be. You aren't even supposed to exist." "You're a coward." "It is time for you to go now." "Go? Where am I to go?" "Back into the world, back amongst the sons of Adam and the daughters of Eve." "Send me back there, and I will feed upon those you seek to minister to. I will devour those that you give charity to. You exist because of me, brother. Do not forget yourself, nor you, angels of God. It was your works that brought about the likes of me, and now you will all pay for this." St. Nicholas whispered to the angels, and they to him. After several minutes of discussion, they all turned their attention to the bishop. You brought about a good point, St. Nicholas. The one some call St. Nicholas or Sinterklaas said. We have decided that you must be exiled to the furthest point from here. You will not be allowed to step foot here again. Those that receive my blessings will forever be protected from you. This will be the last we see of each other, brother. The two angels began their light show again. This time, St. Nicholas didn't stop them. He walked up the steps to his cathedral and disappeared within. You'll regret this, Nicholas, the evil bishop screamed. You may never see me here, but I will haunt your dreams forever. With that, spears of lightning ripped through the air and stabbed the evil bishop. He writhed in pain as his body began to disassemble. His rage grew and kept the pain away. He was blinded by pure white light, and then there was a loud popping sound coming from the space that he once occupied. 1366, Antarctica. Somewhere within the bleak snow-filled wind, a dark shape quivered amongst the rocks. A group of penguins waddled about, not knowing the danger that writhed about them through the permafrost. And that, my friends, is Midnight Dreary. So I hope you all like that. A little Christmassy. I hope that was Christmassy enough for Bobby. I imagine he's probably spoiling his grandkid now, so he's probably not watching. But anyhow, I hope the rest of you all enjoyed it. It was probably one of my, I think it was the first story I wrote for this book. So, and I wrote it long before I was planning on even having a book of short stories. So, so some of the history I used in this book was the tale, the lore of Saint Nicholas, who was he was a bishop in Myra, Turkey, and he headed a church out there. He was known for some miracles that he had performed for everybody. I'm glad you liked it. You loved it, Shannon. Thank you. And one of the things he did do, and I just after I read it, I'm like, I have to have this in the story, and that was, oh, thank you, Jessica. Was the tale about, so it's told in different contexts, but supposedly there was a butcher in town that had kidnapped some children and killed them. And then he pickled them in barrels, and he was going to sell them as pork. Human meat, as you know, tastes very close to pork. Anyhow, the other story is that there were some young students that had come to go to the local university there, and that they were drugged, and then he pickled them in barrels. Anyhow, St. Nicholas had supposedly raised them to life again. The story about St. Nicholas and the women being sold into the flesh trade, that was was part of the folklore of St. Nicholas. He, back in those days, in that part of the world, if you had daughters, you had to have a dowry in order to give a husband, to make it so that your daughter's worth marrying. And the father of these daughters, I think he had 3 daughters, had no money at all. He was broke, And one night, and I believe it was Christmas Eve, uh, St. Nicholas had put 3 bags of gold into the shoes of his daughter so that they wouldn't get sold into the flesh trade. I don't care how broke I am. I would never, ever, ever let my daughters get put in the flesh trade. But that's me, and maybe fathers were different back then. But anyhow, yeah. So those are the stories, and then there's was also a story that his remains were cremated, and that there was nothing left of his body but black ashen sludge, and that sludge was buried in the temple in Myra, and then the majority of those remains were stolen by or were taken by um, people from Italy, and they brought them to the Basilica di San Nicola in Bari, Italy, and then the rest of the remains were brought to Venice, Italy, and then also the time period that the evil bishop, or the anti-clause, if you will, that time period that he went all across Europe looking for his brother, was also the time period that the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, was ravaging the populace. So I had to throw all that kind of in there together or whatever. So anyhow, there you have it. Next week we are going to be reading Theosophy. Um, Theosophy is basically the term for, you hear about all these people wanting to reach nirvana. Theosophy is people meeting their God. So I don't think the past few stories have been a little kind of preachy and religious-y, but yeah, this one is kind of the same. I think what I asked myself in writing next week's story is, what if you had these grandiose ideas of God, and then you went to meet him, and it totally was not what you expected? So keep that in mind for next week. In the story called Theosophy from Thin Spots. I'll let you guys know when I do get a copy here in the library. I got a few locals on here, and you guys can check it out for yourselves. So thank you guys again for coming out and listening and hanging out with me. As always, I hope you enjoyed it again. If you've listened to it before, I hope you liked the live version better. It was a lot more fun to do than just me talking to outer space. So, anyhow, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'm going to call it evening because I've got a lot of studying to do for my EMT class. Yeah, so we're doing skills practice the next 2 weeks, and then after that, then we have skills testing, and then at the end of the month, written test. So I think there's like 3 different written tests that we're doing. So yeah. So I got to get studying. I'm a little behind on my homework. Not too far behind now. I'm getting there. So, but yeah, there's that. You're very welcome for sharing. Glad I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, Kevin. Now you get to cuddle the dog. You cuddle the dog anyway, whether you're scared or not. So really, it's just it just means something different. Jessica, you are very welcome for Story Hour. It's as much of a joy for me to read to you guys, if not more. So to hear that you guys like listening to stories for an hour or so, 50 minutes, pretty close. Very much appreciated. Good to hear, and I enjoy seeing you guys pop up on here. I also enjoy seeing you folks that are kind of silent in the background and just watching. I do know you're out there because I get all that information on my analytics and stuff like that, but I don't know about it until long after this live stream is over. So, but thank you guys anyway for coming in and watching. The temperature is supposed to break by this weekend. It's supposed to be in the 40s this weekend. I'm kind of looking forward to that because I'm tired of being cold. So, anyhow, cheers, everybody. Thank you very much. See that little product placement I did there? Hey, Coca-Cola, send me money. Send me money. All right. Anyway, it's selfless promotion. All right. Have a great night. Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you on Tunes for Tuesday next week. I don't have anybody picked out yet, but that'll show up when it shows up. But anyhow, yeah, Tunes for Tuesday next week. And, of course, Horror Hump Days Night 3, I think we're on. So, yeah. All right. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Mwah. Love you. And I am out. Clappity clap, Kevin. Clappity clap. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah. All right. Peace.